Good afternoon. My name is Maher Louis, and today we're going to be talking about four topics, and here they are. The first one is Autodesk Raster Design. This is a product that is very useful for when you receive, let's say, plans or line work that is not AutoCAD. And if you wanted to scan them and use, then it would be required to use Raster Design to modify or enhance those plans that are scanned. So that's the first product. Second product is Autodesk Civil 3D, and in particular, what is provided by the USGS. You can download DEMs from the USGS and then assign a color palette, which is based on elevation and can really make a DEM pop. For example, when you have two mountain ranges that meet into a valley, and you want to see that valley as a blue, meaning that there might be water or some kind of stream, seasonal creek as they call it in the engineering terms. And then number three, we're going to be looking at Map 3D, which comes with Civil 3D. And the command that we're going to be demonstrating is called Rubbersheet. And the Rubbersheet command is very useful for when you get line work and an aerial and you want to match the two. And then number four will be how to use Civil 3D to do slope analysis. Slope analysis is very useful for when you want to have, let's say, a ski resort, and that's what the demonstration will show. And the face of the mountain in which you have a ski resort would have to have a certain face direction, and there's a way to analyze the face of a mountainside to do that in Civil 3D. So if we're ready to begin, so here we go.
2007? Yep. Okay. Now, just trying to make this wider than it is. Hopefully everybody else can see that. I'm running off of VMware, so it's a little different from how we normally do it. So what I'm going to do here is, as I mentioned, some users might want to keep this in a raster format and just want to make edits to it in a raster environment. So over here, for example, if I wanted to move this whole golf course, hole number 9, let's say 50 feet over to the right, without having to convert this to vector, I can go in and do something like raster entity manipulation and create a region. Now, what the REM tools do for me is it allows me to create a primitive, and I can actually go and create a region around a specific area of raster data. And once I've created the REM, I can move this, copy it, delete it, just like they were AutoCAD entities. So in this case, what I want to do is remove those trees altogether. So I just highlight that REM object and hit the delete key. And hold on a second, what happened here? Okay, that was just a refresh thing. Okay. So you can see now what I've actually done is I've gone in and I've erased those entities. And then I can use the same tool, and I can go back to my, raster entity manipulation, create a polygonal area, and actually go in and just go around this entire golf course. And so I've got a REM entity out there. I missed a little piece out there, but you get the point. What I can then do is just run the move command. I can just say, all right, I want to now move this. Okay, I can select this object, right? And then I can say, all right, I want to select it. Let's move it over there. So what I've actually done is I've moved that whole group of objects over, and right now it's still in a REM entity state. So what I can now do is I can just highlight it, and then there's a command to say merge this back to the raster image. So the REM entity is like a intermediate point. It's not vector, but it's an object that's being treated like a vector entity. So if I say merge back to to raster, it goes ahead and merges that back. And notice that little piece that was forgotten because it wasn't in that original polygon that I created. But you get the idea here. It's very easy to maintain and keep this data in a raster format without having to necessarily create a vector project out of it. So let me quickly go in and do a rubber sheet, and then I'll get into the DEM. And as I mentioned, one of the prime tools of Raster Design is for presentation. And let me go ahead and open up the DWG file that I currently have here. And this DWG file has an image of a subdivision as well as an aerial photograph that goes with it. But as you can see, the image and the vector data don't quite sync up. And what we can do in Raster Design is actually rubber sheet it. So if you've got unevenness of terrain or parallax errors, or there was a problem in the scanning, or if there were issues with the lens distortion, when collecting that image, there's a very clean and a very effective way of just translating key control points on that raster image to key control points on the vector data. So now you have vector data overlaid on top of your raster image. It gives you a very nice visual. So this will take me a few seconds here, and I'll show you how that's done, and then we can get into the DEM aspect of things. So the command to do that is really under, correlate. You have a rubber sheet command. And what I'm going to do here is, if I were to move in, before I do that, I need to zoom in. I've got 4 control points, as you can see here. I've got control point 1, 2, 3, 4. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to map those points to the appropriate locations on the vector data. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go Image, Correlate, Rubber Sheet. I'm going to say, okay, let's add the 4 points. I'm going to say, okay, I want point number 1 on the image. And what I've now got to do is I've got to go and figure out where I want that particular point to correlate. So I'll say, let's correlate it right down there. Then I'm going to say, all right, I want point number 4. You can have as many points as you want. The more points, the better. I'm going to say, okay, I want that point to go and map itself out there. And I'm going to do the same for point number 2. Let's go in and say right there. And point number 3, which is this cul-de-sac, let's go in and say it's mapped to right there. So in this particular case, I've got 4 points. And as I said, you can have as many control points as you want. But let's go ahead and apply that. What this will do is it will automatically take that aerial image and rubber sheet it to its location. Now, obviously, you can see I was a little off with my estimation of where that point was, but if I was a little more careful, I would get a very nicely laid aerial map with that vector data. And again, this is just great for presentation. So you can actually download aerial images or DEMs off the website of various websites like the USGS website, and then as long as you know where that maps to your vector data and know your various coordinate transformation routines, you can do something very similar and very effectively. All right, so so those are just 2 of the common things that civil users like yourself would typically do when working with Raster Design in an environment that uses raster data. So let's now close out of here, and let's actually start looking at the DEM aspect.